I hate even saying this, but there's a little part of me that agrees with a little part of Vince. I love Cody. He's Cody is a megastar. Well, the part I agree with is maybe creative direction is lackluster. There's got to be a credible threat to have a long game in my book. Yeah. The best WWE has done so far has been Brock Lesnar. In hindsight, being 2020, maybe they should have held off on Cody versus Brock until closer to the saga closing up for Cody. It doesn't feel like they're going somewhere. At least with Brock, it felt like it was going somewhere. Something's happening. He could get his butt kicked. Brock could hurt him. Yep. Brock could tear the other pec. And he could send him back on the shelf again. It felt like that. It doesn't really feel like that with much of what he's doing right now. We made it through another week, and we are back for another Wrestle Chat podcast here on Wrestle Chat TV on YouTube and heard on the free iHeartRadio app. Welcome, y'all. I'm the Ant-Man. He's Michael Glavin. Good to have you back, buddy. Me and you text throughout the week, especially if wrestling is going on. But I look forward to Saturdays when we actually get a chance to sit down and jump on here and talk a little wrestling.
Absolutely. It's one of the highlights of my week. There are few people that I know in my circles that have the depth of appreciation of wrestling and knowledge and all these types of things. So this is always a highlight of my week.
That's your way of saying I'm your wrestling nerd friend.
That's exactly right.
That's it. It's just the nice way of saying it. I like it. Well, after an eventful week last week with the WWE departures that were announced and of course Vince McMahon's shares of TKO stock up for sale, I don't know about you, but it's felt like a slower week this week. Sometimes that's not a bad thing at all. I think we'll end up revisiting some of that conversation on departures from the WWE coming up here in, say 60 to 90 days. Hopefully we'll see several of those names that were on that list resurface in one organization or another, and we get to talk about them here on the Wrestle Chat podcast. There is a name that keeps popping up when anything significant happens in AEW. It's not a name that was on that let go list, but one that's been a rumor for several weeks now. But after an attack on Switchblade Jay White at the end of Dynamite, just like the last 15 seconds of the show this past Wednesday, we saw the appearance of someone back in that devil mask that we've seen a few times. The last time that we saw someone in that mask, it was revealed that it was MJF. However, Jay White and Mr. Burberry himself were already in the ring together earlier in the evening. There'd be no real reason for MJF to disguise himself. If you think it through, many rumors. And listen, let's be straight here. It's just more rumors, but entertain me for a moment. Many rumors going around. This is Adam Copeland. And if so, how fitting. Edge in a devil mask. But my question would be, what beef would he have with Switchblade Jay White? MG, first thoughts on that rumor, and let's say it is Edge. How would you book it with Jay White?
Very layered, layered situation there. But to start out, I'm actually one of the detractors from Edge going to AEW. Yeah. I get the guy wants to wrestle. There's a lot that can happen over there relationally, doing business with people that he's not got to work with, or at least work with a lot. The trouble is what do you do to keep your career ending on that high? We see a lot of guys that they'll retire, and then a few years later they have Hall of Fame to look forward to and some miscellaneous appearances. But it's interesting because Edge, because of his unique situation, has done it in reverse. Yeah, I mean, he got put into the Hall of Fame, got healed up, came back, had some great matches, some great feuds, and really tied stuff up in a really good bow. And going over to AEW, what I'm not saying is that it's a step down. That's not what I'm saying. As an organization, I feel like there's a lot going for it there that is to be considered, really high quality. But from a performer perspective, you're starting over because it is a new group of people and a new environment. Really so is. long roundabout way of saying, there's part of me that doesn't wish that Adam Copeland is in the cards at all. But if he is, and that's what we're going with. Obviously, you know, a setup for Switchblade Jay White would be phenomenal, just with these two guys. The play on it, I'm not entirely sure. When you get to somebody of Adam Copeland's stature, it's kind of just the fact that you are who you are, and you just want to beat somebody down to prove you're still on the mountaintop, you know. But past that, I couldn't speculate.
And there's no name equity either. Your name equity is an Edge.
Yep.
It's not an Adam Copeland.
Yep.
And I think you're right about that. It is kind of in some sense, it is starting all over again with this brand new company, if indeed it is him. And let's say it is. For me, I'm not sure that it's actually a setup with something with Jay White. I think it may be moving the roadblock out of the way just to get to MJF. I could see Edge coming in. Let's call him Edge for the sake. We'll keep bouncing around all these different names, but you know, if Edge did go to AEW, I could see him going immediately into a feud with the top guy in the organization. We saw Jay and Max face to face earlier on in the show, and I could see Edge saying to MJF, "You think you're the devil? I'm here to show you who really is." Setting up a feud between he and MJF for a big showdown, down the road, or in AEW's world, that's just a random Saturday night. At least that's what they did with CM Punk and Samoa Joe. Yep. Oh, it's this big feud. Let's do it on this Saturday night. Why not? Let's just throw it here. Speaking of Saturday nights and Edge, since its inception, that show was really Punk's show, at least until his departure after All In. If you wanted to fill the role with a very respected veteran, who better than Edge?
Yep.
Before we move too much further down the wrestling road, I wanted to check in on you and the guys at the Manchild Chronicles podcast. A brand new episode just dropped yesterday. What do we need to be ready for if we haven't watched this one yet?
Well, this one is pretty fun, and let me tell you why. So all the guys are on vacation this week.
We should have just done that show too.
Yeah. And so what we actually did was, long before we got established on YouTube, we were still capturing video and doing a lot of things. And so we had our first From the Vault episode this week for the Manchild Chronicles podcast. We're going pretty far back into close to the inception of the Manchild Chronicles for a really, really fun episode where we did a battle royale draft of the most dangerous animals. We formed 4 teams of 4, and we picked animals to go into a Coliseum-style situation and tried to decide who would prevail. And I can tell you, there was some unconventional picks that you probably would not expect. So I would encourage you guys to jump into Manchild history with us and hit us up in the From the Vault episode. I know you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, that's From the Vault. That's something maybe you should bring back around Thanksgiving so you could do a Survivor Series.
There you go. There you go.
A lot of fun. If you're watching this episode of the Wrestle Chat podcast right now, you can just scroll down to other channels that we love and click on the Manchild Chronicles podcast channel and make sure you hit subscribe. If you're listening on the free iHeartRadio app, look for the link in the description of this episode. Let's keep the focus on AEW for the moment, and particularly Adam Cole and MJF. Better than you, baby. Listen, I know, Michael, that I texted you on Wednesday after their fishing excursion video and told you I really thought this was something that AEW was doing better than WWE right now. Max and Adam's vignettes are becoming like can't miss TV. They're leaning into an inevitable turn with these two. One on the other. We're not really sure who yet. MJF told Cole that he's going to go, get another beer, but we see him open the cooler behind Adam's back and pulling out the Dynamite diamond ring. Adam not looking, but saying, "Hang on, you didn't bring me out here on this boat to knock me out with the Dynamite diamond ring, did you?" And then, of course, Adam hooks a big one. And it's Paul White in a floaty, Captain Insano. This is so good. I hope with Adam's injury, and which is, a lot of people are speculating that it's a work and it's all part of a storyline. He's legit hurt, and he's having surgery. And while he's doing all that and recovering, I hope they prolong the inevitable with one of them turning on the other, and they continue these videos just for as long as he's recovering. I think that could be some really good TV.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen a lot of improvement on long-term storytelling in both the WWE camp and the AEW camp, but there are certain combinations that just stand out from among everything else, and the work that MJF and Adam Cole have been doing is just great. And the thing that I love that makes pro wrestling so special is a lot of times we try and push it too far into the reality realm. And I know that WWE tends to do that a little bit more than, say, AEW does, but part of the fun in a lot of this is suspending that belief and making it just a giant brick of Velveeta. And we saw that this last week with, MJF putting on the ring and balling up his fist, and then the comedy of Adam going, "Hey man, you didn't bring me out here to hit me with the ring and throw me in the ocean, did you?" And just the while it's not lighthearted, it's also really lighthearted in the fact that we know this is entertainment. We know that there's this blur of reality and fun, and so I enjoy when the creators, the performers, everybody can have fun with it, because it just makes it much more of an enjoyable experience for me as the viewer.
Yeah, like nachos, more cheese the better on some of it.
Yeah, exactly.
We have fun hanging and talking pro wrestling with each other. We also love hanging out and talking wrestling with you even more, getting the chance to connect with you. We'd love it if you joined in on the chats that Michael and I have. You can leave a comment on the video here about something we're talking about. Or do you like the MJF Adam Cole stuff? Or share the podcast. If you're listening, share that podcast with a friend, because every little bit helps, and we certainly appreciate it. If you haven't followed us at any of those yet, you can find us on Instagram at WrestleChatTV, on Twitter or X or whatever you call it. It's WrestleChat Pod.
Yep. Awesome. Hey, question for you. Did you ever get a chance to see the Kurt Angle documentary that Peacock did? Or I actually don't know who facilitated it, but I know it's on Peacock, and I know it's not exactly a WWE production. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't. No. I saw when they were teasing it, but I never actually got to watch it yet. Is it good?
Yeah. So I jumped into it, and I was expecting more of a WWE style, documentary, whatever. And really the majority of this special was really more about his life, mostly before leading up to the WWE, and then a little bit after, with just a very narrow focus on his career. And I'll tell you what, it brings a lot more appreciation for who he is as a person. There's so many things that I learned about him, just kind of things that he had been through in his life, some of his family dynamic, different things like that. The way he came up in the collegiate wrestling circuit. One of the more notable things, though, that I would love for everybody to check out in this documentary was that everybody knows, hey, I'm Kurt Angle, I won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck, but what a lot of people don't know is that from that happening, later in his collegiate career, through his first couple years in the WWE, he actually broke his neck 4 times.
Oh, goodness.
And a lot of people, I've watched a lot of documentaries. I know a decent amount about wrestling, and I never knew that he broke his neck 4 times. And,
no clue.
And that was those series of events. And the interesting thing is, 3 of those breaks were within just shy of 2 years.
Yikes.
And so what that ended up happening was that is what started him down the path of substance abuse, which led to a lot of other bits in the storyline. But I'll tell you what, overall, as a person of character, as a person of work ethic, I know that I was inspired just hearing about, not just him training for the Olympics, but what a lot of his other friends and colleagues said about him, and the way he was backstage and in front of the curtain and all that type of thing. So I can tell you that I really, really enjoyed it. It's not a long watch. It's only like half hour, 45 hours. Okay. So it's not long, but man, I really enjoyed it, and it really expanded my perspective of Kurt Angle and his career. So I would encourage you guys to check it out. It's called Angle on Peacock, and I know you guys won't be disappointed.
Yeah, I know he made the rounds a little bit around that time too, and he did the Joe Rogan podcast and talked about trying to get Brock Lesnar to wrestle him do a real wrestling match inside of a WWE ring with nobody in the crowd, just with the boys hanging out. And he actually snuck up on him and got him one time, and they ended up. He goes, it wasn't easy. He goes, I did beat him, but it wasn't easy. So he's a legit dude.
Yep.
And I can't wait to watch that. I bet that's great. I want to bring up a name you probably haven't heard, maybe in a little while. Maybe you have, but maybe you follow him and you hear his name all the time. We just haven't talked about him here. But Vince Russo. Of all the things that he contributed to wrestling and the wrestling business, from WWE in the Attitude Era to having Jeff Jarrett lay down for Hulk Hogan in WCW, maybe not one of the brighter points. One of the things that he's always been really good at is stirring the pot. And this week he continued to stir the pot, claiming that WWE has done nothing with Cody Rhodes. Michael, did you get a chance to hear what Vince Russo had to say on Busted Open this week?
I did, and first of all, I am deeply disappointed with your severe lack of bros in your introduction.
I thought we had enough with him, so I just saying his name, I thought
listen here,
brought
bro.
out ambiguous bros. Yes.
No, but interesting take. I think that's the hottest take I've heard out of him in a good minute, and probably a literal minute. But to say that Cody Rhodes has been underutilized or not used to a full potential, really interesting take. I mean, the guy is one of the top merchandise sellers, probably right underneath Roman Reigns and LA Knight, if not right in the mix of that somewhere. He's on literally almost every show. I know that just across Twitter, occasionally the superstars will post all the dates of when they're working, through house shows and TV and different things like that. And the week of Christmas, Cody is doing like 10 shows in 7 days.
Yeah.
And I mean, his name's on his picture's on every graphic. He's putting butts in seats. And in my opinion right now, he's Roman Reigns without the belt. Yeah. I mean, he is holding down a significant part of the WWE universe in terms of appeal. When I know Cody's going to be on the show, it's the exact opposite for me of what Vince said. When I know Cody's going to be on the show, if I'm getting nothing but a promo, I'm tuning in for it because he's so smooth. He knows what he's talking about. He doesn't cut these stereotypical, wrestling promos and I'm going to prove this and I'm going to do that. Like it's very captivating stuff. And so quite the interesting thing to say. And I can't say that I fully agree.
I'll be honest, I didn't actually hear the interview, but I did read about it. And what I read was he said that Cody is not over to the casual fan. And Russo feels that the company's creative direction is lackluster. This is a quote from him. They've done nothing with this guy outside of having him go out there every week and say, Farmingville, New York, what do you want to talk about? Cody doesn't write the show. They've done nothing with him. First thoughts after when you heard that, was it? I mean, you said that you feel that he's Roman Reigns without the belt. He does have a belt. It's just a weightlifting belt, just a different belt. Yeah. But did you just think this is insanity when you heard him say it, bro?
Yeah. I just don't know what you do with something like that. I mean, Vince always seemed to be about. Now, granted, technically his time was a little bit before my time, but through the beauty of the internet, I've been able to educate myself, and it seemed like Vince was always more about the immediate payoff. Yeah. He was always doing the gimmick matches and the shock and awe stuff, and we are playing the long game with Cody Rhodes and LA Knight because Roman Reigns is not going to be around forever, and he's expressed the interest of doing the Hollywood thing. And really, what is there left for him after this? I mean, he's going to be the longest reigning champion of the modern era. And even to say modern era is almost to short him a little bit because I mean you got to go pretty far back to really hit the people that are over him there, and so to say that we need some type of immediate payoff with Cody Rhodes, I just don't think is the case because Cody's going to carry the company, when Reigns is ready to hang it up. So I think we have to be okay to be patient. And plus, we know we're in the WWE off season anyway. SummerSlam to Rumble is always a little dicey no matter what. So the product is way better than it normally is. And so by all means.
Well, and I hate even saying this, but there's a little part of me that agrees with a little part of Vince. I love Cody. He's Cody is a megastar. I'll say that. $1 billion company doesn't put your face on the center of billboards if you're not a draw. Plain and simple. The part I agree with is maybe creative direction is lackluster. And I say that because I understand playing the long game with Cody, but there's got to be a credible threat to have a long game in my book. Yeah. The best WWE has done so far has been Brock Lesnar. In hindsight being 2020, maybe they should have held off on Cody versus Brock until closer to the saga closing up for Cody, and unless there's something bigger planned before what we assume is Cody taking the belt from Roman, then it feels like we kind of just have him waiting around, like you said, the off season right now, and he's like, hey, I got over Brock, so what are y'all doing today? And
what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, what do you want to talk about? And they're just thrown into he's just thrown into random storylines that have. It doesn't feel like they're going somewhere. At least with Brock, it felt like he was going somewhere. Something's happening. He could get his butt kicked. Brock could hurt him.
Yep.
Brock could tear the other pec. And he could send him back on the shelf again. It felt like that. It doesn't really feel like that with much of what he's doing right now. I am patient. I'm ready to see what happens, but I will be patient and ready for that next chapter. You brought up Roman Reigns, and speaking of him, do we have a ticker yet on how long it's been since we've seen him wrestle on TV? Do you have that handy? Like, do you have like a display in your office there somewhere?
I don't on TV. Yeah. I couldn't even begin to tell you.
It's been a while. He does, though, have a title defense. October 14th at a house show. A house show. T-Mobile Arena in Kansas City, Missouri. So it's not Poto, Oklahoma, but no offense to Poto, Oklahoma. Great city. But it's also, it's not on TV. It's just the people in the arena. What's the logic here in your mind of putting him on a house show? His appearance for the month of October is going to be in Kansas City in front of 10 to 15,000 people.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a few things that came to mind when I saw that. Part of me wondered if they were trying to stimulate live events a little bit, because if you remember, I don't know if it was like 5 years ago, something, WWE press went through this long run that they were talking about house shows all the time, and they were even doing some title changes at house shows.
Oh, they did,
and trying to stimulate ticket sales or whatever. Seems like that can't be it, since WWE's in record everything right now. Yep. So the only other logical thing for me as someone who's standing outside of the internal workings of the company is maybe he's just been gone long enough. He needs to get warmed up for whatever he's going to do next. But maybe it's to get a little ring rust off of him. But past that, if he was wrestling in Hawaii or something, maybe he's trying to, a hometown crowd thing, but it's Kansas City.
Well, maybe there's a house show record that they haven't broken yet, and they're going to break into this. So it's just another record they need to do. The writer's strike is over, but the actors are still walking the picket line at this very moment. But for how long? And how would this affect John Cena and The Rock's involvement in future plans? Only time's going to tell. And Punk's been quiet for a couple of weeks, but it doesn't mean he's not being asked about. Shawn Michaels, he had this to say about CM Punk. He's a guy that does numbers and makes money. I think that would be a risk-reward ratio that I'm sure from a company standpoint they'd have to consider. But when it comes to would we take him in on NXT and have him on our television? Are you kidding me? Of course I would. I just don't think anybody would let me. Who doesn't take that kind of star power? He's exactly right. There's a couple of nuggets to leave you with this week. Make you think until we see you again next week. AEW's Wrestle Dream pay-per-view is coming up on Sunday. If you're watching and you're tweeting along or Xing along, I think I heard Eric Bischoff call it this week, and I think he's trademarking it. Twix. He's twixing.
He's twixing.
Twitter Xing, yes. If you're doing that this weekend during the pay-per-view, find me at the Ant-Man. I'll be tweeting along as well. For Michael Glavin, I'm the Ant-Man. We'll see you next week here on the Wrestle Chat Podcast.